Hello there. Today, I'd like to share my experience in driving in Laos. I currently live in Bangkok, Thailand, and over the last Christmas, I made a road trip to Laos. First, driving to Vientiane, then I crossed the border at Nong Khai, which is less than an hour of driving from Vientiane, the capital city of Laos. And driving from Vientiane to Vang Vieng was no hassle at all because the motorway there is excellent, taking less than 2 hours. But the trip from Vang Vieng to Luang Prabang was quite challenging, and I'll talk mostly about that part today, just hoping to help anyone who is planning a similar trip. So I traveled to Luang Prabang on the 28th of December last year and came back to Vang Vieng on the New Year's Eve. I drove my Honda Odyssey, which unfortunately is not an SUV, so bear that in your mind as you watch it further. So to travel between Luang Prabang and Vang Vieng, there are two options. Option number one, you just keep following route number 13, going through these small villages. And Google Maps says that the net driving time is around 8 hours. And option number two, if you're coming from Luang Prabang to Vang Vieng, you need to first take route number 13, then route 4, then you go on a mountain road to reach the top. Then travel further to a small town called Kasi, where you meet route number 13 again. And then the rest is the same as option number 1. The net driving time here is 5 hours and 30 minutes. And I read from some blogs that route number 13 is really full of trucks and trailers. And also the driving time is much longer than option number 2. So I decided to take the second route. Well, I can't compare the two options now, but I don't regret taking the second for the shorter driving time with fewer trucks on the road. And now I'll tell you more about the trip, dividing the entire route into 9 sections. So you start out from Luang Prabang, going out of the city until you meet the three-way junction where you can take route number 13. And section 1 is just usual city driving. And I could drive 13 kilometers in 20 minutes at an average speed of about 40 kilometers per hour. Section 2 on route number 13 until you take route number 4 is in a pretty bad condition, mostly unpaved with many potholes. And here you need to drive behind so many trailers and trucks, which make a lot of dust. So for the sake of keeping my passengers happy, who were my kids and wife, I could drive at an average speed of just 15km per hour. After section 2, the road condition becomes much better all the way up to the mountain top. And section 3, until you turn left onto a mountain road, is mostly paved with just a few potholes. And here I could drive at around 35km per hour. Also in section 4, leading to the viewpoint on the mountain top, where there is a nice cafe, the road is mostly paved with only a few potholes, although you still need to be very careful. I must say this was the most scenic part of the entire route, and sipping a cup of coffee at the cafe while enjoying the fantastic view, you forget all the bad experiences you had on the road. After a nice break on the mountaintop, here comes the worst part of the route, section 5, from the cafe to a bridge. The whole section is very steep and is totally unpaved with a lot of deep potholes. And on my outbound trip to Luang Prabang, this was uphill, of course, and so steep. And at 2 locations at least, I almost gave up the whole trip because the potholes were so deep that my Honda Odyssey couldn't go over. And Keys, sitting in the back seat, called this section a hell path. And because you need to keep your foot on the brake all the time and also control it very carefully, I happened to have a lot of pain on my knee at the end of the day. And yes, by the time you reach the bridge, you've already forgotten how beautiful the landscape was at the cafe. 엄마 눈 감으세요 빨리. 여기서 바닥 완전 긁었지. 맞다, 여기다. 여기서 올 때 엄청 긁혔는데 나도 절로 가야겠다. After all the hassles in section 5, finally you come to a better road in section 6. From the bridge to a small city called Kasi, where you meet route number 13 again. The road condition continues to be decent until you reach the city boundary, which is mostly paved with just a few potholes. And compared to the hell path, I really felt like heaven here. When you think the nightmare is over, it all starts again in section 7. Driving out of the city Kasi until you reach a small village called Nong. The road is really half paved. What I mean is it is paved on and off every, say, 50 meters, and I felt it was actually worse than the totally unpaved road. And because the stretch of the road was so long, it was difficult to keep patience, driving slowly for the comfort of my passengers. But the good thing is that it is mostly flat, and the scenery is just breathtaking. So if you need to drive in this section, just slow down, take it easy, and look around, soaking in the views. After the slow but scenic road, you come to section 8, which is from Nong to the village called Vang Vieng. It's mostly paved, but there are still a few potholes, so be careful. But you can drive here like on a motorway. The last section was from Vang Vieng to Vang Vieng. Here it is very much well paved with fewer potholes. But approaching the city, the traffic increased a lot, and I couldn't drive as fast as the road condition allowed. So here is a trip summary. I drove 175 kilometers for 6 hours and 45 minutes at an average speed of 26 kilometers per hour. I took 2 breaks, 1 hour at the mountain cafe and the other a shorter one in Kasi, which makes the total traveling time be just over 8 hours. So I left Luang Prabang at 8 in the morning and arrived at the hotel in Vang Vieng at 4 in the afternoon, which was not too bad compared to the option number 1 along route number 13, I suppose. So I'd like to make some small conclusions here. If you own an SUV or a pickup truck with enough ground clearance, you should just go for it. Traveling by car between Luang Prabang and Vang Vieng, you will definitely enjoy the breathtaking scenery up close as you drive along. And even if your car is like mine with low ground clearance, I guess you can still do it because I did it, and also I have seen many other small cars like sedans and hatchbacks, the mountain cafe. But you will have to be very patient and careful. Having said that, I wouldn't drive along this route during the rainy season because the steep and slippery uphill and downhill sections can be pretty dangerous. So this is the end of my video, and I hope the road conditions in Laos improve in the near future so that this video becomes outdated and I can take it down soon. Thank you for watching.